Hello. Today I'm joined by two amazing guests. Both of them ventured into the world of low-code before low-code was really a thing. I hope I get their names correct. This is Eric Deneuf, Chairman and CEO of KRVE, and Rom van Arendonk. He is the domain architect at Anexis. Although Eric does not work every day with the software team who uses Mendix low-code, he was strategically involved in introducing Mendix low-code to his company. Eric explains how, like many transformations, he and his board members overcame reservations from within the business to introduce low-code. Rom, on the other hand, only knows the world of low-code. Although Rom attended university and studied IT and software programming, his first hands-on professional experience of producing code was via the Mendix low-code platform. From his early introduction to Mendix low-code, he has never looked back. Welcome, Eric and Rom.
I wonder if you'd be very kind enough to just let the audience know a little bit about your background and perhaps your skill set.
Thank you very much. My name is Eric Deneuf and I'm the president of the Royal Boatman Company. And that means we are mooring and unmooring seagoing vessels in the port of Rotterdam. My personal background is I was a mooringman myself. I started at a very young age. I was 16 years old. And then besides, I did some education in economics. And therefore, I went to the office to start in the operations. And later on, I moved on in the financials. I became CFO. And now I'm taking care of CEO as a president. So yeah, that's what I'm responsible for now. And our company, as I said, is responsible for the mooring and unmooring of seagoing vessels and a lot of innovation regarding to this core business of mooring and unmooring.
Perfect. Thank you, Eric, for the introduction. And Ron, perhaps you'd be kind enough to introduce yourself and a bit of your background as well.
Of course, thanks, Gary. My name is Ron van Arendonk. I work for Anexis. That is a grid operator in the Netherlands. We have most of the eastern part of the Netherlands, so quite a few square kilometers. Mm-hmm. My role is I am the architect of a team of 26 people. And as a team, the rapid product development team within Anexis, we create bespoke software using the Mendix platform. My background is I studied computer science. I finished that 9 years ago. And ever since then, since my first job, I worked with Mendix. A couple of years as a developer, and I transitioned into architecture. And now I am the architect of a team of 26 people.
So it's a pleasure to have you both online. And the topic we're really talking about is low code. I just want to take a snippet from, if you like, from what Forrester have said fairly recently. So according to Forrester, low-code development platforms enable rapid application delivery with minimal hand coding and quick setup and deployment. That's a kind of recent statement that they made. Perhaps with this in mind, I'd like you, if you wouldn't mind, to give me a little bit of background about low-code and how Mendix became part of one of your tools of choice, if you like. Actually, rather than talking about low-code and specifically Mendix, it's just to understand a bit about before low-code came along. What was it like before you introduced low-code into your platforms?
Yeah, as I'm not a computer scientist like Ron, I think that you find the right combination because I am one of the board members who is responsible for having new platforms in our company. Just to explain that our company is 24 hours per day operational, 30,000 incoming seagoing vessels per year and outgoing as well, of course, we hope. And for that reason, we have to do a lot of planning. And to do planning with 7 planners continuously, 365 days per year, it's quite a challenge to combine all these matters of planning into your invoicing system and into your total program of all the other things like financial stuff and so on. So before, and that's what I learned when I started here as a young guy. I'm now 49, and I started here in the office when I was 26. And then we worked on with Business Basic. So that was, let's say, a high code programming challenge. And it was done by one of our economist colleagues who did this as a hobby in the 80s, in the early 80s. So we adopted this program, and he created this program, and that was exceptional to combine all this, how do you say, what do you call it? It's telex, messages coming from telex by paper, and he let it automatically went into our computer system, and that was exceptional. And but we still moved on with this business basic programs created by ourselves. So at the end, after his work of more than 30 years, it became like spaghetti. All these programs he created and he combined with each other on a platform which was called Providex in those times. It still exists, and we were looking for a successor for him. So we were not able to do that, and for that reason, we were looking for a new platform where it was much easier for new programmers to fulfill programs which were the need of the operational people here. And in the meantime, we also started a shipyard, and we also want to combine it in the same company. So for that reason, we started with this, we found this Mendix platform, and therefore we were able to start with this platform, and we found out that it was really a big difference between our old program system and this system. So that's where we learned for the first time our low-code possibilities with Mendix, and we took in some engineers, and we combined it with our new engineers to train them and to learn them how to use these low-code programs.
Perfect. And roughly how many years ago would you say that you switched over into a low-code world?
We were one of the first here in Rotterdam to step over. So I think it was 6-7 years ago.
Okay, so plenty of experience.
Yeah.
Ron, perhaps you can share, what was life like before you went down a low-code route?
Thankfully, I can't tell you. I have been low-code all my professional life. I have had some experience with high code in university. I didn't enjoy that too much, and so I was really glad that I got the opportunity to really start my career in low code. And I've stuck with that ever since because I enjoy it so much. But what I do see are two examples, I guess. So first thing, when integrating with teams who use different technologies, you consistently see that teams working with Mendix are far more adaptable and far quicker to change their applications than the other side. And second, we have been doing some legacy transformation, right? Yep. So you have PHP applications and you transform them into Mendix applications, and you see the maintenance cost of those applications, they go down drastically. So these are the two real concrete types of experience I have comparing Mendix or low code to high code.
Perfect. Can I ask you both, perhaps I can stick with yourself, Ron, which is, a backlog of IT projects. Do you see a growing backlog, and where, if you hadn't had low code in place, would you think that is an even larger backlog? How do you think it might have affected the backlog, if you have a backlog at all?
Yeah, we definitely have a backlog at Nexus. And we see projects coming in continuously, and even our backlog is growing. You also see that we, instead of decreasing the team size, we are consistently increasing the team size each year because of the demand from the business. And I guess we all recognize, especially at Annexis, the incredible speed of the delivery if you use Mendix.
Yeah.
So I don't even want to imagine a world where we would have to use high code to deliver this volume of bespoke software.
Yeah, we had a backlog, of course, and what we see now is that we are we were at a backlog for a long period, and now we are moving forward to create new programs, and I can see that we now have 4 programmers taking care of all our businesses. And for example, yeah, we take care with on low code, and we use a company. It's named Time Series.
Yes.
And this company, we work closely together, and they created applications and supports. With the result that this application was successfully launched in the 1st of June this year. And now we made so much progress in our logistics planning and so on. And yeah, the next step will be to read out the data from out of our boats. We have 60 boats running around in the port. And yeah, this information can be also used to predict when the maintenance should taking place or can be intervened in time with when a possible defect emerged and
Yep.
so on. So we move on with this.
You've got rapid changing. You're continuously improving with using low code.
Yeah.
Interesting. You both touched on the subject actually of resources, and I'd love to understand how you believe finding the right caliber. In my world, we call them A-grade candidates, A-grade programmers. How do you think, hiring in a low-code world is different from hiring a traditional software programmer?
I think the difference is vast. I have been involved in a very large project in my consulting career. And we were doing a Mendix project, and there was a different technology using high code, and that project had 40 programmers. And that's to my mind, it's an insane number.
Mm.
But all these guys, they were very technically proficient, but because the project was so large and it required so much programming, the people skills of all these programmers, they weren't a primary concern. Usually when you do Mendix projects, especially at Annexis, we have 2 to 3 developers, and they do everything. We don't have dedicated information analysts, business analysts, so that role falls to the developers as well. So you need much more, how would I say that, much more rounded consultants,
yeah,
resources. And so really the people skills are very important. And Mendix makes it very easy to develop, so you don't need a hardcore IT background to be able to deliver very nice applications. And so the focus really shifts from being very technically proficient to being a much more all-round consultant, even for our internal resources.
And just before we move to you, Eric, Ron, do you think it's important that the kind of skill set if we call them programmers still, do you think it's important that they have to have a programming background? Is what merits, when you're looking for the right candidate, what kind of skill set do you think is ideal for a low code world?
For a generic all-round programmer in the low code world, you need to have some technical proficiency, but you need to be very able to analyze requirements, know how you are going to implement them, and you need to be very much a people person, because you will have small teams, and this setting asks a lot of you when communicating with your product owner or your other stakeholders.
Would you imagine that to produce, in your experience, to produce the same amount of software that you've done in your experience, would you normally have more people involved and a wider diversity of people?
You would traditionally have more people involved. There is another point I want to make on the previous subject when hiring resources.
Yeah.
And that is this. You will run into requirements that are not an excellent fit for the Mendix platform. And so you will extend the Mendix platform, either through custom JavaScript code to create beautiful front ends, or to create custom logic using Java. And so this is one of the challenges in our team of 26. We need to be able to, we need to have this capability in our team. We need to have a few people who are proficient in JavaScript, and we need to have a few people who are proficient in Java. But most of our programmers do not require these hardcore IT skills.
That's fantastic. Good update. Thank you for that. And Eric, I think you mentioned you've got 4 programmers. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. And I'm glad to hear from Ron, while we don't know each other, that we have the same attitude about this, because I was wondering how we take care of this, because now we have this low-code platform. We have a new type of programmers, and those programmers are selected to become more creative. And of course, we have some, as Ron said, hardcore programmers, and they are less empathic than others. And now we are able to have more creative, empathic people, and they created new developments. They are more accessible for the people which are working, let's say, in our business on the water. So and they have this human touch, and yeah, we became more lean and mean in our company to have this creative low-code programmers. So it's necessary, as Ron has said, JavaScript code. Yes, we have these programmers, JavaScript code programmers, but besides, we also take now more creative people how to build up the needs of this in this company, and even the needs which were never accessible for this company, because it took too much time and too much people to make a program, to make a software program, and then connect it to our existing platform. That was a job for let's say years sometimes.
Yeah. And you almost touched on a topic. I kind of talk about happier programmers. And in my background, I've done programming, and of course, programmers love it when they're very creative. When they're at that part of the creative, doing the mundane parts. So, do you think that there is anything in it, in the very fact that low code can do a whole load of the mundane things very rapidly, allowing the programmer to be far more creative? Do you think they're happier programmers? Again, Rom, I don't know if you have a view on that.
Yes, I definitely have a view on that. And it's absolutely true. You don't need to spend a lot of time on the mundane stuff. That pretty much works out of the box, and you can really start focusing on interesting developments, on interesting requirements that really increase the business value of your application, and that goes very rapidly. And this is also one of the things that I really enjoyed when I was a developer. I was able to very rapidly create business value using Mendix, and the response from my stakeholders was always overwhelmingly positive. And that was one of the main things that really made me happy as a developer.
Okay. And Eric, do you get any feedback that your teams are happier as a result of low code?
Yes, because I can see, because we have regular meetings with the IT people, and also in combination with our the people from who's taking care of the business. What you can see is that they are reinforcing each other in the IT team. So let's say the technical programmer is now connected to this creative people who are working with this low code, and they are really reinforcing each other, and that's what I like, and there you have better outcomes than before.
Yes, yeah. Thank you for that insight, both of you. Um, Going back to the kind of industry, there's quite a few vendors in this space. And it's a growing, I think it's a sign that this is the future, because there's a few vendors coming along. Now, one of the claims is that low code is, I use the term, 10 times faster. Uh, Maybe it's not 10 times faster, but perhaps you can share how much faster you kind of might perceive it to be. Ron, that might be harder for you because I'm not sure you've had a lot of experience of traditional, but perhaps you'd like to make a stake or have a go at that if you've had any analysis, if you like.
Of course. Back at my consulting job, we really, that was in 2011, we really needed to start making these comparisons pretty much for our marketing demands, really.
Yeah.
And so what we did was we did function point analysis of projects I had delivered versus how much time it would take an experienced Java team to develop this. And we consistently found between 4 times and 6 times faster, depending on how well the requirements were understood by the business.
Yeah.
So if I was on a project where I also had to do a lot of requirement elicitation and the process wasn't entirely clear and that needed discussing, during the project, we'd still end up 4 times faster than with a traditional Java approach.
Okay. Obviously, it's not free as a tool. It's one of those tools. It comes in as a toolkit. There's a cost to it. I'm assuming because you're still using the likes of Mendix, you still see that solid value proposition.
Yes. Yeah, we do. We don't really know what else I can say. We have 80 applications in production, so that is a lot. But yeah, the sheer amount of time we are saving by being able to deliver 80 applications in production in 5 or 6 years, that is definitely worth the licensing costs.
Fantastic. Eric, what is your view? Do you have an idea? Like I mentioned, the industry talks about 10 times. Even if you half that, that's still a high multiplier. What analysis has your business done to understand whether low-code value proposition, if you like?
Now we didn't have any calculation or expectations in advance, so it was just an adventure to start with this low code. And Mendix belonged to this group of performers in Rotterdam, and we heard a lot of positive expectations and experiences via our IT programmers. So they became enthusiastic, and we were looking for another platform. So we were in the beginning lucky that we choose for Mendix, because still now it is taken over by a huge company, and we are happy for that because they are also very keen to move on with Mendix. And of course, I hope let's say we are a company of 450 people doing a lot of businesses, that it still will be able for us, that even if they grow bigger, that they will still be accessible for our company.
Yeah.
And if I look in the how much time we saved using this low code, I think it's you mentioned 10 times. I think I agree, because for us before it took, for a big program to create, sometimes it took half a year, and then we had a lot of problems, a lot of bugs to solve. And if I look now, it takes, let's say, 2 months, and it's already operational. So, yeah. And it's very easy, because even if you have a big challenge, then after a month, you can already see the frame of what this program should do. And then the creative people can also be involved, and the operational people can be involved. and they can easily change it. So the outcome is more defined than it was before. So, and the bugs, there are less, so that saves a lot of time. So therefore we are positive about this low code, and also about the background of Mendix, because it's still in the hand of the trustful companies, which is also very important for the safety of your, yeah, let's say it's your one of your fundings of your business, so or foundation. So yeah, that's important to keep it safe.
Fantastic. And out of interest, we talk about the positive. We've been talking about all the positive things that you can do with low code. Ron, perhaps you might share with me, what is it not necessarily good at? Because it has limitations, but where are those? Have you come across them? What would you not use low code for?
I think I came across 3 use cases at Nexus where it wasn't a great fit. So the first one was really interfacing with a piece of hardware. So in Mendix, you get a web application, which you access through your browser. But then, you create a connection from your browser to a piece of hardware attached to your laptop. That doesn't make sense.
Right.
So we chose a Java approach for that specific project.
Yeah.
One of the other things we were doing was we deal with the values of electricity meters, and they can be read every 15 minutes. And if you do that for a couple of 100,000 of meters, you get a huge volume of data.
Right.
And we tried to create this all in Mendix, and that wasn't a great fit. That really led to performance issues. So instead, there are many platforms you can use for that. And so the sheer volume of information goes into a different technology, and we use, for example, Mendix to build front ends and reporting capabilities on top of that data store. And interestingly enough, the third thing that it wasn't necessarily good at, there was tracking people using GPS.
Okay.
If there wasn't a Mendix issue, there was really a limitation in the accuracy and battery life of phones
Okay.
to get that to work. So that was a project that we actually spent a lot of time and money on. And small scale, it kind of worked. But rolling it out for all of Nexus, that wasn't the best fit. But that wasn't Mendix. That was really the underlying GPS accuracy and the effect that it had on your phone life.
So again, I don't know your business very well, but it sounds like it's a really small percentage in your particular case, in your industry. It's been a really small percentage of cases where you haven't been able to use low-code Mendix in some form. Is that right?
On the one hand, that is right. On the other hand, we have a very mature architecture practice.
Yeah.
And we really focus on reuse before buy, before make. So the projects that, come into our backlog as a group of people creating bespoke software using Mendix, that has already passed the reuse and the buy phases.
Okay.
So once there is a real need for bespoke software, then in the current day and age and in our organization, Mendix is usually a very good fit.
So is it fair to describe it that it is one of the tools in the toolkit of things that help you as a software team deliver?
It is the main thing, really.
Okay.
We made as a Nexus, we made a strategic decision to create all of our bespoke software using Mendix.
Yeah.
So we do not have a Java capability, a .NET capability, anything like that. So once we recognize the need for bespoke software, we go to Mendix. And if we really, really can't use Mendix for something, then we will use Java.
Okay.
So really, Java is one of the tools, but mostly it's Mendix.
Fantastic. And Eric, do you recognize, have you heard back from your teams any areas where it's not been suitable in your business?
I have to admit, no, because as I said, we came from a very high code programming system, and therefore it was not compatible with our old system at all. So we have to start all over again, and we started in Mendix. So for us, this gave so much benefits that our programmers, which are also Java programmers, but they don't use it a lot because all the applications we are building, we are able to now, and we weren't before. So now we only have positives outcomes with by using this platform. Yeah, and I have to say, because you're looking for something negative, we became a little bit more dependent from others like time series to speed it up our needs and our intelligence. But I also have to admit they're doing very well. So, and they're very fast programmers on this Mendix platform in combination with this group of time series. So therefore we speed up and we make a lot of progress. So yeah, negative things, nah, maybe it's we made some extra costs, but we have a lot of benefits coming backwards as well. So
okay. Well, Eric, if I can stick with you, perhaps, think of another company that has, in many companies, a lot of companies don't even know what low code is. So it's a growing term. People are becoming familiar with it. If you met a counterpart in another company who was contemplating low code, what might you say to them? What the goods and the bads? What might you help them out, guide them in terms of whether you would take a similar route? How can you use your experience to shape their decision?
Yeah, that's a commercial question. Do you recommend?
I wasn't trying to make it actually, but
and my answer will be, and you can expect that, yes, I would surely recommend them. But I don't think if you look into the board, then the boardroom is not really sensible, that they don't know this low code and they don't know the benefits of this low code. So I think it's important that that you will not only activate the IT people, but also the board members, and explain about the benefits. And of course, it's a change if you have to change your platform, but it's an investment for the future, and it's already been proven that this is a stable platform. It's still they make still a lot of progress. So yes, I on my position, I would explain it to other board members that they can make a step forward if they are still on a high code platform by using this. If they have to choose one, yeah, why not choose this Mendix platform? And for me, it's also a benefit because I'm working in the technical nautical industry. So if they are using this same low code programs, then we can easily combine them and make the business more transparent, but also more effective than if I speak on behalf of the Port of Rotterdam. Then you will become more effective comparing to other ports, and maybe in the future you can combine those ports with the Port of Rotterdam and so on. So yeah, I think there is a long way and a lot of opportunities in the future for this long term, I have to say, for this Mendix. Yeah.
Out of interest, you mentioned the board. Was part of the decision making when you invested in Mendix Low Code? Did it go that high? And how do you remember there being some kind of ROI case to prove? Did it take a long time?
Yes, it took a long time because we had these technical programmers, and not all were very enthusiastic. And for some of them, it was the lifetime work to program all this software in this business basic language. So for them, it was very emotional to stop this and start over again on this new platform. So yeah, it took us a long time to convince them. It took a long time in the board. No, it was not in the board, which took a long time, because we saw the benefits, but we are not programmers.
Yeah.
But it took us some time to convince the programmers that we need to make a big step for a new platform. And
There was an emotional connection, was there?
yeah, there was an emotional connection,
Yeah.
and we to avoid that. And now everybody is happy that we made this big step, but to stop your old-fashioned program but using because it was not a bad a software system and not bad software programs, but to step over to this new platform, that took us let's say 5 years.
Wow. Okay. Okay. Did you see the benefits earlier than 5 years though?
Yeah.
Yeah. Roughly what kind of time frame do you think the emotional connection got disconnected and the benefits started coming? Was that quite quick?
In the board, it was quite quick, but for the programmers, yeah, we need to wait that the oldest programmer went for retirement, but he was also at the end positive. Okay, I will work together to bring it over to this new platform.
Okay.
With the new low-code programmers, they were so enthusiastic, and now we finalize it. And as I said, we started the 1st of June. Everybody is so enthusiastic, and they see the benefits and they see the possibilities, because I think we brought it over. We made this transition to this new platform. Use 10% of the new ideas. We have plenty of new ideas,
Yeah.
which are now in our range to create within this low-code. So
actually, that's a really interesting point, because often we have an idea and we park it because we think it's too complicated or too hard to do. And now suddenly this becomes within scope and within price and within budget and so forth. That's a really interesting point. Maybe we'll pick up on that later. Rom, if you met your counterpart in another company, what's the positives and negatives? What would you be saying to your counterpart?
If you really look at developing bespoke software for your company in isolation, so no history, I would definitely recommend Mendix. But like Eric said, there is a current organization and you have current practices that you may need to shift attention away from. So if you have a large Java capability in your organization, then really the discussion is not just a technical one. It is very much an organizational one. So there are many benefits to using Mendix, but really does it fit in your organization? And how are you going to do the resourcing? Are you going to train your current developers? Are you going to hire new people for the development? Are you going with external partners, at least initially? So I think that the technology itself has proven itself. But on an organizational level, you really need to determine if it's a fit for your role.
Yeah, we mustn't forget that there's people involved in this decision, and to get the most out of these tools, you still require humans, and we work within people businesses, don't we?
We definitely do.
Yes. So how do you see the future of the low-code industry? Do you think it's going to continue upwards? Do you see that as a transition from traditional programming? Do you think it's stabilized? What do you see?
I think it's a bright future. I was looking at the Mendix World presentation, and I was very pleasantly surprised by all of the new features and capabilities of the platform that Johan Den Haan, the CTO of Mendix, was presenting. And even though I have been in low code all my life, I was still surprised by the direction and the vision of Mendix as a company. And yeah, I think that as long as they keep moving forward with their platform, I don't know where the limit will be. And so I think that really Mendix has a very bright future. And if Mendix has a bright future, then that also means that all of low code has a bright future, because all of these platforms, they learn from each other, right? Yeah. And currently I have no idea what the next wave is going to be. I haven't really seen anything like that. So, to me, low code is really an abstraction of Java. It's you're programming on a higher level, which improves your speed. And I haven't really seen anything that is an abstraction of low code and make it even faster.
I don't know your ages, but imagine you were just about to go to university and study in a technical programming world. Would you encourage yourself, knowing what you now know, to be going down a traditional programming route, or would you go down a low-code route, or is it not as simple as that?
I would definitely go the traditional programming route.
Okay.
I have done, I finished my master's in computer science. There were many times that I absolutely didn't enjoy it, but overall, it has taught me a way of thinking, and it has very much broadened my perspective on IT. And I found that in low code, that is a fairly rare skill set that I have. Mm-hmm. And so it has helped me, propel my career tremendously by having that background. So, I see many of my colleagues from very differing backgrounds, and I have a hardcore IT background, and that really sets me apart. And so that knowing this, that would definitely motivate me to go down the same path again.
Okay. And Eric, I think you and I might be in a closer in age, so I can't even remember back to university days. But again, what advice might you give, if to the younger generation moving into this kind of industry, the technical industry, the programming industry?
That's interesting, because my youngest son is 20 years old, and he is now studying at university for data analytics. And I think that makes sense, because he didn't enjoy to start real programming, because he wanted to become more creative. So and then I learned that now this low code is improving. You can become more creative. So I said, well, I think this is a big opportunity to start with this education, and not going into real static programming. So yeah, maybe this will be something totally different, because when I had to create myself as not being a software engineer, I created the first homepage here for the company. It was
okay.
an HTML, and I had to follow education for that. And afterwards, we get front page and other kind of programs, so you can easily click and paste. So then I thought, well, why did I learn all this stuff? Yeah. So, and that's what I recognize with this low code as well. It's not necessary anymore to study all this difficult parts, or you wanted to create Mendix, then for sure you have to do so. So yes, I'm happy for this. You can step over all these complicated things and become, if you like, more creative in your stuff.
I think that's an interesting point, because my son's also 23, and and he's going down a low-code Mendix route as well. So I did a very traditional programming. So I agree, Rom, in that there's something about you learn. It's good to learn some history. It gives you some depth to it. But I think the future, we touched earlier on the creativity part of programming and getting those real skills out, and anything that's a barrier to it, the things that take you so long to get to that creative. I like the idea of getting them and put into one side, such that you can really get your head down onto that creative side. So I don't know if you remember, there's an old-fashioned predecessor if you like, to the low code world, you know, RAD and visual developer, and they kind of brought a bit of a negative. I don't know if you remember those terms or been around. Again, to those technical people that might be holding on to the traditional approach, what might you say, Rom, to those people? Is it a case of just try it, or you know, what do you think? What's your advice?
My advice would be the realization that you are still solving interesting issues. And I have a colleague who, out of university, really wanted to do Java because he really liked the technical challenge that it gave him. He ended up in my team doing Mendix, and he very quickly realized, wait, there are still interesting technical challenges that I can solve that bring real value to the business without having to write a single line of code. But conceptually, you are doing the same thing. You are solving problems, real life problems, using software.
Yeah.
Now, it is true that you are more limited using Mendix, and this is a downside that as a programmer you have to accept. But you get, you know, the platform takes care of a lot of things for you, a lot of boring things for you, so you never have to worry about that again. So if you can accept the trade-off of being slightly more limited and gaining much more freedom to solve interesting technical challenges, then I think even for a current high-code programmer, a low-code platform like Mendix is still an interesting career development.
Fantastic. With the benefit of hindsight around low-code, what would you do differently, Eric?
Now we have made this conversion for our old software. I have to say that our programmers became very enthusiastic, and they cannot wait to start with all these new ideas they have. And yeah, I think for the future, we almost have to temper their enthusiasm. So yeah, we have so many opportunities left. Yeah, I'm extremely positive about that. We cannot wait to start this new ideas they have. Now we have made this conversion, so we are, as I said, at 10%, and they really want to move forward to fulfill it 100%. And looking forward to that.
Excellent. And Rom, what might you do differently with the advice and the experience you've now got?
I can't really think of an answer. I think that, you know, for a company like Enexis, they were on board with Mendix fairly early. We are doing it now for more than 6 years.
Yeah.
And you know, back in those days, it was hard to prove the stability of the platform, so it was kind of a gamble for Enexis.
Yeah.
And doing that any earlier, you know, would have just increased risk. But yeah, you know, it's we are a very professional practice nowadays, and that is really cool to see. No idea how to do it differently.
Okay, I think you're both introduced to the low-code Mendix world via time series. Is that correct? Certainly yourself, or Eric, you're using. Rome, is that your introduction into the world of Mendix?
No. I started my career at Capgemini. So that was my introduction. But you know, at Enexis, we currently have some time series employees as external resources. So,
okay.
Yes, I am familiar with the company.
And are either of you using their? I think they call them templates. Is that right? And perhaps you'd like to, if you are, perhaps you'd like to just share some experiences around those templates. Have they been beneficial to you? Have they jump-started, helped you?
We actually use one of their templates. It's a planning engine. It's and that has really helped one of the projects we are currently doing.
Yeah.
We had a planning engine, So we had a current solution that required a massive, costly upgrade. The solution itself wasn't target architecture, and so the combination of not being target architecture and requiring a costly upgrade, that sparked the discussion. Okay, what are we going to do with this application? So we looked at. It became one of the projects that we picked up at the rapid product development team, and we use time series planning engine to schedule people who will go to our customers and record the values of the electricity meters.
Right.
So yeah, this is a very specific piece of functionality. Always would require some external resources or external applications to fulfill that capability.
Yep.
Time series had this in their portfolio. The time series resources we had experience with that, and so it was a really smooth implementation.
Fantastic. And Eric, you've mentioned time series a couple of times actually. What might you like to add about either the templates or them as an organization?
We have some different devices which they have developed. So this is a device which is being used by all these mooring men, and we have 300 of them, and they are working, as I said, in the port. So they can easily check all this planning of vessels. They can see which vessel they are involved, and it's very, let's say, easy to use for them, and they have all the information they want, and it's endless. So they know the location, they know the size of the vessel, they know the configuration, how to move this vessel. They have all these details, all this data, and they are combined in a platform, in this template we are using. Besides, we have a huge innovations. It's called short tension, and that's a system which is absorbing the energy coming from the mooring lines by big vessels, which avoid them for breaking loose of their berthing place. And a time series created for us a template, an application, how where you can check the pressure of the system, and you can make a pre-alarm. There is a pre-alarm inside, and you can combine it with the captain of the vessel, with the terminals. So this gives so much progress for us, and we are now working to create smart bullets, expected time of arrivals with vessels, and so on and so on. So, yeah, as I said, endless. So and because the end users of these applications, they have many ideas and they have many suggestions, and they bring it in to time series, and they created some good templates for these new ideas. The only negative thing is that we become, how do you say, so connected to them, that now one of those programmers is already in our company for 1.5 years.
Well, these kind of things happen, don't they? But I'm sure they're adding value. Otherwise, they wouldn't be there.
Yeah. Now we are very positive, and yeah, we make so much progress thanks to them. So that's the reason why we won't let them go. So
I'm sure they'd be pleased to hear that.
Yeah, for sure. So now we are satisfied. Yeah.
And now I'm just gonna go kind of off topic here. And this can be about anything, if you like, but I'm interested about your kind of reading, your learning, your knowledge. Do you have a top 3? It can be anything. Do you have a top 3 books that have inspired you over time? Can you think of any books? So this is the kind of the human part. We've gone through all the low code, and so listeners like to understand maybe what makes you tick. Any particular books that stand out in your life, whether they be technical, business, relaxation? Now I'm making you think. Who's ready to go first?
I think Ron.
Okay, so it's going to be a rather disappointing answer, I'm afraid. I don't really read many books,
Okay.
but I do read blogs. One of the fairly famous architects' blogs I read is Martin Fowler's blog, especially parts of microservices architectures. But overall, I find his blogs very inspiring. And one of the creator of Stack Overflow, which is also a very well-known website in the IT world, Joel, he has a blog, Joel on Software.
Okay.
And even though that blog is fairly old, I do find that it contains valuable nuggets that really change my perspective on architecture and on doing IT projects. So these are the two main things that I read, to broaden my perspective.
Fantastic. Just out of interest, the Martin Fowler, he didn't work for Philips, did he? Although a lot of people have worked for Philips, I know, because I'm just curious. I know a Martin Fowler, as it happens. He worked for Philips in the UK, down in Southampton. I'm wondering if it's the same guy.
I can't honestly tell you.
No.
I haven't checked his LinkedIn.
Okay. And Eric, what about yourself? What inspires you, whether it be electronic or just books?
Talking about Philips, one of his grandchildren, he became Fritz Philips. He became very interested in people managing, and that's why I'm reading his books, following his courses, and that triggered me to read many more books about the understanding of the behavior of people, especially in business-wise. That's what's triggering me. So I'm a little bit older than Ron, so I'm reading books, yes, a lot of them, and all about these topics. And for me, I learned how to bring people to let them think positively, to get the best out of them, and to become creative. And that helped me to survive with these companies fighting against these big international architect companies we have now. And those are not creative anymore, because they are only trying to run the business like Google, like Facebook, like all the big companies. And what I like is with the smaller companies, which I am involved, to have the best out of the people, if they are high educated or low educated, so low code, high code people. I don't mind. If they have ideas, then I want to combine them with the high and the low code people. So that's one of my goals, that's what triggers me.
I'm very similar to you, actually. I'm very much into the people and the psychology of people. I've got some materials I'll send you afterwards, actually. Are you familiar with a gentleman called Marshall Goldsmith? Yeah,
No.
seen any of his material? Okay, I'll send you a couple of links to. It's very inspiring, and I think we started off on this topic. It's all about people. I'm afraid it's low code is still requiring the best out of people. So we still have to drive to work with people and for them to be inspired.
But you were a programmer, you said.
In my early days, I did COBOL programming and C++. So, but I'm going back a long way, and I'll be honest, that probably wasn't my top skill. I went onto the tooling as opposed to be the programmer from an early age. And I've been in ever since, in more around the tooling. You might remember a company called Atria, which became Pure Atria, became Rational, became IBM, and the product was ClearCase. Do you remember that?
No, I know Atria, I know Atari, but that's something else.
Yeah, that's something different. Yeah. Okay, so maybe our paths haven't crossed, but it was. Nowadays, we all talk about the version control tool Git. And there's GitHub and GitLabs, and preceding that was Subversion. Preceding that as an industry was a product called ClearCase. And that's actually why my company's called Clearvision off the back of that. And we used to be very narrow, focused on a particular tool. Now we're pretty wide across the whole software development platform.